What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon coming at you today with an important video for Rugby 25. Not playing the game, we've not got any gameplay or anything in the background, but there's some important stuff going on in the old FAQ page that I think is worth a lot of people seeing. A lot of people have bought the game and playing along, whether you love it, hate it, whatever. There was a bit of a post put up that a few days ago when they were saying about they were going to be putting out a roadmap going over what is the future of Rugby 25. Didn't know how that was going to come out in the form of just a post on Twitter. Was it going to be something they drop in the FAQ page? Is it going to be, some of the little videos they've done in the past? This is what they're thinking of doing. Didn't know how it was going to come out. Didn't know if it's worth doing a video on. I have seen that we have now had it. It is this thread here, the future of Rugby 25, coming over from JNT, and I thought, I have a quick glance at it, I haven't read through it fully, but I thought it's big enough and it's broad enough, and I think it's worth talking about enough that I'm not just going to share it on Twitter or put it in like a little community tab on YouTube. I think it's worth making a video about, because there's some interesting things that look like they get touched on here, and I think it's worth other people seeing it that don't use the FAQ page, and you guys just playing along, or you just sort of catch the videos and whatever you're talking about the game. So let's jump in and take a look what's been said over at the BigAnt from JNT. So starting out at the top here then, hey Rugby fans, crossed out. Now I don't know, I don't know what internal stuff going on there. Of course, that used to be the thing that Matt always used to say in his little videos for Rugby 25. Always used out with hey Rugby fans, and we've not heard from Matt for a while, so I don't know if there's some of the little internal politics going on in there. If there is, love it. I'm all here for a bit of drama, but we've crossed out the hey Rugby fans. Let's start over. Let's begin again. I like where this is going already. I'm JNT, which is now crossed out Jordan. Jordan, who's the artist formerly known as JNT, has been, of course, massively prolific in the FAQ page. A lot of news coming out about the game. I've spoke to him personally on the Discord. He gets involved with the Discord over there as well, but we've had quite a lot of direct communication as well, where I found things in the game that I'm like, I don't really want to put this out in a video. You might want to take a look at it. And Jordan's a great guy. I've really enjoyed chatting to him, and he's got his head screwed on and absolutely knows what's going on with the game. So I'm really got to. We've removed the monikers now. We're now on to just Jordan over there rather than necessarily JNT. You know me, I'll probably still call him JNT. I've literally got a whole poster with Mad Dragon behind me. It's not our real names. We're everything, of course, online. I'm happy to share with you that I have been promoted to the position of producer. Rugby is now my singular project and focus going forward. This is part of the reason I have not been around as much and now work exclusively on Rugby 25, working with the team to ensure we can make it all we can be. Fantastic, because JNT's been getting involved, sort of in and out. He's been pulled onto different games and done other stuff, and there is a very consistent theme of, while JNT's been involved with stuff, things feel like they make a bit of a progression. I'm a little bit more aware of he's then not been involved with the game quite as much because he's been doing some other stuff, and that's where we've noticed the dips, and then it goes back up again, and it's always been quite consistent. So, fantastic to JNT over there. Congrats on the promotion. I don't know if you end up seeing this video, but congrats on doing that, and we're probably very glad to have you on board now with the Rugby 25 permanently. We acknowledge that there have been some ups and downs, as I literally just mentioned then, since early access 1 and post-launch. Honest, that's what I like about JT. Yeah, true, he knows it, and, fantastic that's, we're acknowledging it. There have been ups and downs. While transitioning into the position, I've been closely involved in recent updates, focusing on areas you've told us matter most, targeting things that you have all specifically wanted changed, some quality of life, some new additions, and some more tuning. But let's talk a little about what's being worked on now on a larger scale, and what can be what's in this list for the future. These are all works in progress and may change by the time we release Get Feedback on them. Now, obviously, they've said that they're going to move on to the one update every 3 weeks. They can focus on the larger things. So, we'll have to look at how those goes. Hopefully that does mean we'll see these grander improvements for the game as time goes on. So the very first one then, contested marking aerial maneuvers. I mentioned previously that the contested marking, what we call them internally, it's probably a little bit more because they do a lot of the AFL stuff, and AFL has marks, calling the marks, which is very, very similar to like the aerial contest, or aerial maneuvers, what some of the people have called it, was something I was hoping to get into this update that came out, the update that's been probably the most shaky since he's been more involved with it. But yeah, this is one they didn't hope to get it involved, but it still needs more work going on with it. Both our internal and some external testing teams gave the same feedback. Yeah, it was one of the areas that bothered me most. I'm not saying I'm, one of these special internal or external teams, but I've made plenty of videos where I've spoken about the aerial contest. I even did a whole video going over like 5 things I think they can change in Rugby 25, and aerial contest was absolutely one that I think they could have changed relatively easily in terms of like using the systems that are already in place, but also really needed tuning out. But let's go over some new changes around this mechanic. Before, you would have seen a big red thing. Again, these feels like JNT's calling me out of it. Yeah, that is what I have called it. Some of you noticed this. Has been missing in the last few updates. They did take it away and made it a lot better. There was one a few videos ago where I played New Zealand versus Wales, and they got rid of it completely, and players contested really well for it. And that seems to have shifted a little bit away from that since then as well. As it's provided no useful information, we removed it. Good! It was terrible. I'm very glad that decision was made. But here's a look at the new system. So here's our first look at what it means to go with the marking thing. Now, okay, there's still going to be a lot of graphics on screen. I'm not a big proponent of having stuff on screen. My immediate fix for the concept of having lots of stuff on screen would be have those markers on the ground if you're playing easiest, easy, medium, maybe even hard, and then on hardest, they're not there. And you have to get, very, very used to how the game works, and therefore they get removed and you have to play freely, thus making the game harder and adding a bit more to what hardest means is something I would suggest there, but we'll carry on. So it looks like we've got the 2 semicircles now rather than that big one red thing. It's still kind of the same thing. It's still like, it looks like it's going to be a meter that fills up, and then you have to time your arrow press on either side, and you'll be able to see them sort of competing. I'll keep this on screen for the next bit. In the image above, the red will be player 1, so the red bar sort of going around the side here, and when against the AI, it will be shown in grey. And when so as in like the AI's bar will be shown in grey. This will change depending on the player as well. Player 2 will have the blue highlight, much like you can see when you're already playing in multiplayer matches. So if it's grey, if it's AI, it's red if it's player 1, blue if it's player 2. This will be a timed mechanic that can initiate when all the pieces align on the field, requiring controller input for what you would like to attempt in these situations. In this specific case, I used the directional tap. So we've got 2 people competing there, France versus Australia, and we've now got some things. We have directional tap with the right analog stick, tap ball back with just an outright Y button, and contested collect, which is A. Now, very interested to see how that's going to work into... This is actually very similar to what I said in my video about what I wanted. Of course, I wouldn't have the graphics, but the concept of having the option to tap the ball back or collect the ball. I have no idea if me putting that in a video or any option, or if JNT's really mad because I put it in a video as he's already been working on it and said, my drone's going to try and claim some sort of input on this, the scumbag that he is. But no, that's really useful. That is something I don't think has been in another rugby game, the concept of being able to tap the ball yourself or collect it. It has always been collecting the ball and a missed time bounces it out your hands, you're not really tapped away. So having the option to do it, tap ball back, I assume is going to be like it is in the lineouts. It's been like a generic tap we've had in like Rugby 22 and stuff, whereas tap directional is you specifically telling it where you want it to go, and you could try and get it back to your player easier, but I assume has a less likelihood of working than tap the ball back generally. Looking forward to see how those priorities will come in, what's more likely to happen than what. Realistically, you'd imagine it's much easier to tap the ball back than collecting. A ball, one player's just got to get an arm in the air and slap, the other one's got to catch it in the breadbasket mid-air. Maybe it's a bit more to do with timing, maybe it's, one of these things is more likely than the other, but you're more likely to cause an offence by causing a knock-on or something. But really, really nice. Actually, so 3 options, not just 2 options, but 3 options, which is, I think very, very good in those contest areas. There are some choices you can make for these. Tap the ball back, which will be targeted tap towards your end, so just generically backwards, whereas contested collect would be the catching option that can be played out. There's also an option for tap direction for those who want more freedom of where they would like the ball to go. Careful with your placements, you can trigger a knock-on depend... That's just what I said! Yes! Yes, that's what we want! I really like Jade. That is, yeah. So exactly what I just said is what I hoped would happen. He's literally written it there. I should have just read the next paragraph soon. But yeah, fantastic. Yeah, a cause of, player input in a live situation. You get to make the decision, and there is consequences for what happened. You go for the sort of the bigger, easier plays to help you is bigger consequences. That's what you want in a good rugby game. Only thing I'm going to keep suggesting is get rid of these markers. I assume the arrows are going to have a real element to the game. I assume it's literally going to be like whoever fills their bar most to the end bit wins their thing, potentially. So if you don't have them on screen, that might make it really tough. I'm not opposed to the idea of giving the player the option to disable them or just make them disable for hardest than myself. Next up, the Scrums. Oh man, Scrums needed to be worked on. Fantastic. Scrums wasn't one of the ones I touched on because I didn't even know how they were going to try and improve Scrums, because the Scrums have been a little bit all over the place. We know Scrums are one of the mechanics people like to avoid with all the power they have. Scrums lack a lot of understanding, and that's on us. We do not give enough feedback on what is happening, as well as not really showing what play options you have. Isn't this an absolute breath of fresh air to be reading the guys over at BigAnt just saying, yeah, this hasn't been good enough for getting it out to you guys and allowing players to understand it, as opposed to saying the feedback we got wasn't good enough, or it works brilliantly in the office. You know, yeah, great. We're all aware. We all know that it doesn't work. There's no reason to pretend like it doesn't. Yeah, it's not been good enough. Fantastic, great, you know, an acknowledgement, fantastic. What are we going to do about it? When working with the contested markings and when I was appraised of the mechanic, the first thing I asked them to update was more visual feedback on what the AI was doing. We show it in 2-player, let's show it on AI. So rather than it just being your bar that you're filling up, you'll also be able to see their bar, kind of like what we had in like Rugby 22, with the ball, remember the ball that sort of goes round and you have to match up, but you could also see what the AI was doing, who just loved to cheat. It was perfect. It was like a stencil. They were amazing at it. But you got to see why they were winning a scrum, so there'll be something visual on screen for us. Being able to see what you may have done wrong when it comes to scrums will follow this same line of redesign and is the only way you can get better or even understand what is happening, which will be the focus on the visual side of things. The scrum designs are still with the UI UX team. I don't know enough game terms. UI, I know. UX, no idea. But okay, the teams are with them, with some new instructions for how these will be displayed and played out. So there are no current in-game ready screenshots I can provide at this time, as what we have now for testing and what will be in the game will be very different. Okay, so yeah, we can't see it on screen. Interestingly, God, it's been so long since I've played a multiplayer game because the online hasn't been that much fun, just because you can cheat so often. I don't actually recall what it looks like when you do an online multiplayer game, if you can see your inputs as well as the other person's inputs on multiplayer. I can't imagine, but I imagine what they're saying is that bar you have behind you will be behind the AI, so you can see what's going on, which is fantastic. Oh, the next one is Rucks. Who doesn't love talking about the Rucks in this game? While a number of updates went into the Rucks over the last few months to make this system function better, there are still some issues with how it is currently. Mainly visual, but also some input issues, as well as feedback to the players about what is happening and when. Yeah, all of those things are absolutely bang on. Some work has already begun on these changes, to these, but as they will require custom animations for some parts, they will need some time to make sure they're working as expected. Okay, so we haven't got any screenshots of what they're hoping to do with the Rucks, but having something a little bit more on screen. Again, throwing up the video I put out there, comparing what happened in Rugby 22 to seeing the way the players competed and contested. There were 5-player Rucks in Rugby 22. I hated, and still don't really like at all, the 5-player Rucks added into Rugby 22. I didn't mind the 3. I thought it visually looked weird, but I think 3 was better, gave you more players in attacking line. But Rugby 22 had 5-player Rucks. It was a real competitive Ruck when you ended up needing to put 5 in. And the animations work better, the way players sort of got knocked out of the Ruck, therefore you needed to add more in. You know, I think things can be done to sort of improve it. I would still like it that you didn't have to always put in the 5 players to make it contestable, but they've not sort of touched on numbers of players going in there more to showcase how is a Ruck being won, which is important and isn't in the game at all currently. So that'll be a good change. Mauls need some updates to functionality, but will not be getting a large update like some of the other systems at the moment. Okay, you know, I mean, the Mauls do what a Maul does. I think Mauls are very, very complex in when you really think of an actual game of rugby. What can happen? Players can split off, you can drive through, sometimes you can cause an obstruction through crossing, you have breakaways on a Maul, you can drag down a Maul on purpose, sometimes your own player drags it down. there's an awful lot of things that go into a maul being like it is in real life, and most rugby games just stick to players crab walk along in a maul, and it's never looked very real in almost any game I've played, particularly for rugby. So that's one that they're not going to throw in themselves at, at the deep edge straight away, but I say that they will eventually get around to changing how the mauls work and breakaway. I think another one for me here to throw out my own ideas for this would be going to what used to happen with Rugby 2011, or I guess Rugby 08 as well, but Rugby 2011, when you had rucks and sort of set pieces in general, you could always use the side button, so you had like X or B, and that would basically choose who was interacting with the ball. Currently, as it is in Rugby 25, you pick up the player with the left analog stick, your scrum half will pick it up. But being able to maybe use the X button or the B button as a left and right option would be player at the back of the maul splits off from the maul, X being left, B being goes right. And therefore, you could either choose to pick it up with the scrum half, play it out with the pass bumpers, or pick it up with your hooker at the back of the maul, and your option to choose left or right would also come into it. And I think that would add a little bit more versatility to how the mauls work, as opposed to just crab walking along and passing out. But that is sort of my own little suggestion, I would say, for just a way to try and improve mauls, make them feel a bit more realistic, where we have the hookers breaking away and try to dive for their own try. At the minute, that's not really how it feels in Rugby 25 at all. Tactics. Oh man, we've all wanted some tactics in this game. So the tactic system they have in is the sort of bars. We've seen these bars and the way you split your forwards, and I've seen people in the FAQ page talk about them and say using the tactics is a big help. I honestly can swap through all of them and notice almost no difference. In fact, as I go through them, it feels like each one is worse than the last, and I always just go back to the first one, because they don't make any difference. They just don't. And I think there's a bit of a placebo to them actually making a lot of difference. The players all stand in a line behind your ruck. They offer very, very little. So an actual tactic system will be, very, very good. So in the image, we've got the split thing, the confirm up and down, and the forwards. That kind of seems like what it is now. I'm sure there's probably some change. The current tactics option will be going some updates to make these easier to change based on the plays in question. At the moment, you need multiple inputs to change how these are assigned. These will be changing to a much quicker system, and one that you will be able to track on screen at any given time. Great. With the update, it will allow us to change these much faster or add additional formations you can play with the press of a button. Fantastic. Again, having a look at how Rugby 22 worked, where you had the pre-designed setups for how you wanted your team to do, you were able to choose one or two, and then when it got into the game, you could swap between presets. The control system for Rugby 22 was very, very easy to swap around and shift. I don't think it requires the slow down time thing. I always hate that in rugby games. It didn't need it, but the actual buttons you were pressing and the order you had to press them in was very, very clean. It was very easy to understand. And then also having, which they haven't shown in this screenshot and they haven't mentioned down there, is about the ability for you to manually change line width and depth, which again was very, very good in Rugby 22. You told them to do it. You immediately saw the difference in line depth, in line width, and you could spread them out. Rugby 22 is the game to look at there for me in terms of wanting to make that feel a lot better. As we continue work on this, we are constantly adding and revising more and more potential updates to how this will work and to have a larger control over what your team is doing on the field. While the AI will change around their playstyle based on a few decisions, the control has always been left in the player's hand. An additional option to allow your team AI to make these changes will also be added for those who just want to play and not micromanage. That's, you know what, as I was reading that, I was getting more and more nervous. I can understand that, because actually, if I was going to go play a cricket game, or as my old flatmate used to love his F1 game, and he was choosing tyre pressures, and I was like, oh man, no time for any of that. I just want to drive a car fast on a road, right? I don't want to do those micro decisions. Rugby as a sport is a game I want to make those decisions because it will enhance my gameplay experience. It's something I will enjoy more. As I was reading that, it was making it sound like the AI will just decide for you. It's like, I don't want that. I want to choose it. So having the option for the AI to make those decisions for you based on some key mechanics makes it easier for players newer to rugby, newer to the game, newer to just trying to get into the sport and don't really know what it means to do your pod split between the 2-3-3 setup and changing all this and playing a diamond formation, or are you playing a pendulum or a blitz defense? What are you doing? You know, a lot of those terminology and speak, you know, can really throw you off as a new player if you don't already know the topic at hand. So actually, I like that from not my own perspective, but for the perspective of new players coming in. I like that as long as it's not going to be that I play online versus someone who has got the AI enabled and they dominate my decisions, and as I swap my tactics, the AI reads my tactics and swaps to do something better, and I'm losing a game of rock, paper, scissors constantly, and I can't seem to work around it. But I like that. I think that's really good for newer players getting in. And then finally, quality of life changes. Then some small things that are surprisingly a large amount of work. Yeah, I don't doubt that, but they help with the little details. More referees. Yeah, I that's great. I think that's a very, very useful thing. Having the same 3 refs is a bit weird. Having a few more of the little cinematics where players talk to the referees. Just swapping the players out instead of always having the loose head prop. Always talk to the referee at a lineout is also good. Ad board updates for blank leagues. Yeah, there's a couple of leagues that still have just no advertising and all those sort of things on the ground that just make it feel a bit more real. Team updates, great. New player team art. New stadiums. Which I did a game the other day playing as the Pro D2, and I was like, oh, I had no idea the Pro D2 stadiums weren't in, so I don't know if that'll be that. An online focused update. Don't know what that means, but the online is not a massively enjoyable space that I've played with this game, unfortunately. It's a lot of cheating. It's a lot of picking the ball up with the scrum half, followed by a handoff, followed by an offload, followed by a handoff, followed by an offload, and it's just one person marches to score a try, and then you march to score a try. If you try and play properly, you know, don't engage in that, it doesn't matter because the other person just does, and they just cheat and win, and you can't really do anything about it. And I've also seen a lot of people said about the rankings, saying that the number 1 ranked player in this game, it's not me by a long way, believe me, but the number 1 ranked player in this game, apparently, people were saying they've matched with them, and they just don't play the game. They just find a game and just put the controller down, so you've got to play this 20-minute match like on your own, and people get bored and quit, and therefore it's a win to them. So that's how they're at like number 1. It's like, that seems like a weird thing. So an online focus update will be very, very good. I know me and some other content creators, me and Bears have chatted in the side, and we've been like, me and Bears Gamer really want to do some online matches, and we're just like, I've never felt like the game has got there to sit down and feel like we could enjoy it. And every other rugby game in the past has always been the same. So if they can have some more online focus thing, I'd love to do some more stuff with other content creators, maybe some subscribers, play some games, do them on live streams. I'm all for that. Hopefully that would be an important one that was actually looked into. While these are not the only updates we are working on / have planned, these are the main focuses of direct updates. Other things like formations, pods, more reactive support runners, and a number of other aspects will also be looked at while the individual teams are worked on their select areas. Yeah, all good. Give it a heart. Get over there, give JNT a heart. That's a really nice post. That's a really nice way to do it, to do a roadmap. Not just saying we're going to improve X and also Y will be better. And you're just like, how will they be better? Giving us screenshots, giving us a bit of a glimpse. What does it mean? How does it work? What will be changing? All these fancy new buttons that we'll be looking for. A lot of this stuff feels like reactive change to feedback that's been given in the FAQ page, which has been great. Some acknowledgements from JNT now that he's taken over and he's finally the guy sort of in control of it. Just sort of saying, we know it's not been a smooth road. And, apologies for it. I mean, I'm not going to shift, that blame onto JNT. He's just taken over and he's been promoted to producer. Congrats to JNT over there. And hopefully that's going to make some big strides towards Rugby 25. Now, of course, they're going to swap now to the one update every 3 weeks. It's going to slow down a lot, which is a shame, but obviously these things look like they're going to require time to implement. But if they can implement them and they feel good, they feel smooth, I'm all for it. So there is our update. There is our new roadmap. Those are some new things coming to the world of Rugby 25. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you're not already part of the FAQ page, you can head over there. It's the BigAnt forum. They don't just, of course, have anything to do with Rugby 25. You can go over there. They have Rugby 25, AFL, Rugby League 26 has recently had one up, which I'm sure is busy with people as well, as that game's coming out soon. And they've got little things for all their different games. So get over there. The mega thread is normally very, very busy with people giving things. I'm normally in there. They've also made a comment about the... JT also said the other day about side camera. So I put a post in here talking about the way the kicks work in the most recent updates and how it changes based on playing on side camera or end camera. And there's a real negative impact to the side camera at the minute with the kicking. And J&T in response came back to me and said that they've now put the person who hates side camera most on the case, and they're going to play it until they enjoy it. And I love that. That's brilliant. More companies should do that. I found the person who likes it the least, and they're going to play it and test it and find improvements until they do enjoy it. Fantastic. I absolutely love it. I hope more things like that happen. So hopefully other things will change. But it's a good place to just sort of get involved with a bit more information if you're not just here for, watching the videos and what have you. But yeah, do let me know your thoughts. Get over to the FAQ page. Get a little bit involved. Give your own thoughts and feedback on the game. It's always useful for the guys over at BigAnt as well. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.